everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Yorkshire and North East meeting. It's going to be a very exciting meeting. It's going to be full of fun and laughter with Peter in charge as speaker today. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce my committee. So there's myself as chair, there is Liz Smith-Mills as deputy chair, James Hare, I saw him comment on chat, who is our secretary, Sophie, who is treasurer, and Joanne, who is committee member. We also have some really exciting news to announce, that we have a new member in Yorkshire who has agreed to join the committee, and that is Lisa Williams, who is now executive housekeeper at the Grand. So exciting news and a great addition to the committee. Lots of energy, very passionate about housekeeping and her teams. So I would like to welcome you to the meeting. I hope that you do enjoy it. We have some news as well. The committee had a meeting earlier this week to discuss the opportunity to start face-to-face meetings again when guidelines allow, probably after June 21st. And Joe is going to do a poll about how you feel about that. Because maybe numbers will be restricted, we're going to blend the meeting potentially with the speaker part of the meeting being on Zoom, so that people can join in that maybe will not be allowed to be there physically face to face. We do think about the tough time that our associates and also our housekeepers have had the past year. So we are going to assist housekeepers with travelling expenses to the meeting, and we're going to sponsor the event. And we've been overjoyed with the generosity of the Grand, who have offered to sponsor the venue and the buffet when and if it can go ahead. So this is exciting news to see the association opening up again, and we can all see each other face to face. So enough about the committee, and moving forward, I would very much like to introduce Peter Banks, the MD of the multi-award winning Rudding Hotel in Harrogate. He's going to give a retrospective look on the last year and COVID management, and I am positive you are going to enjoy him speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you both for bigging me up so much. I sincerely hope I don't disappoint after all that over-promise, under-delivery stuff. So thank you. I've done, my name's Peter Banks. I was management trainee at the Boy for 5 years. I've been in the sharp end of hospitality for 34, 35 years now. Managed Rudding for 24 years, and we've gone from a £1 million business to a £21 million business. After 5 years at the Savoy, I went and I used the word worked loosely at the Old Course Hotel in St Andrews. I played a lot of golf and drank a lot of beer. Actually, that is what I did. And then I went back to London and I worked at the Hilton on Park Lane. And I was front office manager there for 3.5 years. So the Savoy taught me quality and Hilton taught me how to make money. And I then moved up to Rudding, and I only expected to be here for 3 years just to do the opening, and because it was a brand new opening then. But we've carried on building and carried on developing stuff. So I've sort of stayed. Our last big development was we built a £10 million spa, and we won Spa Hotel of the Year last year, as well as the Independent Katie of the Year from 2019. So we've had some success, but I'm not getting my hair back, if you know what I say. That's it. It's all gone. Yeah, so there we go. 90 bedrooms, 15 different sized conference and banqueting rooms, 2 golf courses, holiday park with close to 500 units on it, a big £10 million spa, and a couple of restaurants. Is what we do.
That is amazing. I mean, that sounds like quite an undertaking, and your career sounds it sounds like you've had a lot of experience, and sounds like you should have been equipped, you know, with loads of different skills to deal with pandemic, and you think that you're always ready and everything else. But tell us a little bit about how did it feel going into March last year, maybe January, February last year? You know, your experience sounds like you could handle anything, and then this started. So tell us about the hotel first, and then about you personally.
Sure. I went to the general managers conference last January, and they had a futurologist in there. And some bloke who's supposed to be able to tell the future, right? He spoke for an hour and a half, and there wasn't one mention of a pandemic. Some bloody futurologist even. February was surreal, as was the early part of March, and we were sort of watching and looking at what was going on in Italy and France and thinking, oh, it won't happen to us. And then it started to hit London, and you could almost feel this creeping sense of doom just moving north. Then there was that dreadful week of the 17th of March, I think it was, when Boris told everybody not to go to pubs, restaurants or hotels, and didn't give us any support. For a week, I thought, Jesus Christ, he's just thrown us under the bus here. We've got a mortgage to pay. We're £7 million borrowed, and we have to pay back, I don't know, £1.2 million a year. I thought, where the hell's that money going to come from? I went round to every single member of staff. We've got 300 staff, and had staff meetings with everybody and persuaded it. I did the maths, redid the budget, and I persuaded everybody that we would, if business went like I thought it was going to, everyone would need to take a 40% pay cut through until June. Then we'd go to 70% in June, 80% in July, and then back to 100% in August. And that would have seen us with enough cash. But if lockdown went on for any longer than June, we would have run out of cash, even with the entire team taking a 40% cut. As it was, the lovely Mr. Rishi Sunak, I love him and want his babies, rode to the rescue.
Lots about whatever floats your boat, mate.
with a fantastic furlough scheme that absolutely rescued us.
Yeah.
The entire industry, it rescued us.
But it didn't come. I mean, I'm going to argue with you a little bit on your fan. I am a fan of the policies, but do you think that they came at the right time? Because there were quite a few points in time where I feel it could have been quicker, it could have been more decisive. I mean, there were quite a few decisions being made early on where people.
He should have done it. I mean, we should have gone into lockdown 3 weeks beforehand. It was obvious to anybody with half a brain that whatever happened in Italy and France was then going to come through to us.
Yeah.
So he should have locked down 3 weeks beforehand. Unfortunately, he's absolutely gutless and doesn't realise that part of being a leader sometimes is having to be unpopular and make unpopular decisions. He was gutless. He allowed Cheltenham to go ahead, all of the rest of it. And eventually he shut the stable door after the horse had bolted. And then he threw us under the bus. He should have announced furlough at the same time as telling everyone not to go. There were 500,000 hospitality jobs went in that 1 week.
In that first, and I think that's the biggest issue, isn't it? Because some people reacted really quickly because they were worried about the cash in the bank and not having it. Can I ask you a question whilst we go? Because you said you asked 300 of your staff to take pay cuts, and you spoke to all of them. How did they react, and how did that make you feel? I mean, that must have been a really hard time for you.
It was an absolute shit week, to tell you the truth. They were shocked, they were worried, they were concerned, but I had to give it trust me, guys, I've done the figures. This is what's going on. This is what I'm paid to do. Stick with us. We're all taking the cut, me included. I'm not going to get paid for 3 months. Thank you very much. We're just going to get through it. Stick with me and we'll do it. And every single one of them went with it and signed and said yes.
Exactly opposite from what the aforementioned gutless person did. But again, you know, we're here. We've got the furlough extended to a point. Obviously, the whole country went into the first lockdown. What happened to your hotel? I mean, you know, what went to turnover? What happened? Did you manage to make any money? Did you manage to keep your staff?
Yeah, we usually make 21 million. I redid the budget. I've actually redone the budget about 10 times. But the one that I did last April, May, I thought we were going to turn over about 12 million. We actually ended up turning over 14 million. And surprisingly, we actually still made £500,000 profit. And now on a cash basis, and ultimately that's what it's all about. Cash profit is, you know, you can mess around with the figures. Cash wise, generally Rudding spews out £2.5 million worth of positive cash a year. That then goes to repay loans and all of the rest of it. You know, £1.5 million goes on loan, and then you've got refurbishments and new developments and everything else. And so we actually lost £1 million worth of cash. We kicked out £1.5 million worth of cash rather than £2.5 million. So we just managed to pay the bank, and obviously used furlough to pay the staff. I had to make only had to make 7 redundancies. And if I'm being brutally frank, they were probably, brutally honest, they were probably 7 bits of dead wood that weren't really carrying their weight anyway, pulling their weight rather. But we did it kindly. I did it early, so I did it in May. And so I was able to keep them on furlough all the way through, and then just make them redundant at the end of furlough. So the end of the full furlough, when it didn't cost me anything. So they actually got another 4 months worth of salary, and then they got their redundancy. So they probably had 6 months worth of money, plus whatever. But if they've been with me for a long time, they obviously got a lot more. So they got 4 months worth more than, because we did it early.
Nothing like a bit of pandemic to make you think about your operational costs and effectiveness. You know, a lot of people have gone very lean, and it's made them think differently. Have you changed any procedures, systems? What have you changed?
Loads of stuff. You don't want to waste a good crisis. That's what they say. We've centralized. I've got 5 kitchens across the estate. And I was the first duty manager who stayed in for the first 7 nights all the time. And so what we did was we emptied all of the freezers and the fridges and sort of put it all into one central fridge and freezer. And as I was carrying all this rubbish down, I thought, how much bloody vanilla ice cream does one unit need? Oh my God, or hash browns. I mean, oh my God. And so I thought, this is daft. We've got all of this money tied up in, say, ice cream. We could have filled this room with the amount of vanilla ice cream we had. So we've now got a central production kitchen. We've centralized the menus. So the central production kitchen do all the mise en place, and then we send it out to all of the ancillary kitchens where it's then finished. So we've had some labor and cost saving there, because actually everything's measured out, so the food cost is much more exact. We don't take cash anymore. I reckon that saved 3 days in the accounts office. Everything is now by direct debit for all the rents at the holiday park, all of my golf club members, etc., etc. That's all direct debit, and that used to take another 1 or 2 people. We've got check-in, which is by ANPR camera now, so this improves the service. So we know that it's Mr. Smith coming down the drive, because we've asked him for his number plate before. It flicks up onto the ANPR camera, and that goes through to the smartwatch on the Porter. So we've got an automated ball collector on the driving range. We've got a new golf system so people can book online rather than picking up the telephone. So we've got less people on the phones. New payroll system. So all of the rotas go straight into payroll. So whatever's on the rota is what you get paid for, rather than the rota being done on Excel and then being given to the the payroll man and then him putting it in again. That saved about another 4 or 5 days. I reckon we've saved 200 to 250,000 pounds in efficiencies.
Yeah.
Will not impact on service.
Yeah.
And at my conversion to profit of 10%, that's £2 to £2.5 million worth of turnover we've saved because we've thought differently.
That's amazing. And you know, you've got a room full of housekeepers here, and I know that your housekeeper is somewhere here. I think she is. I hope she is. So I'm going to now quiz you on housekeeping and see whether you can actually answer all the questions without you calling Rachel in. Okay. So what did you do differently in housekeeping? Were there any initiatives that you took on board? Was there anything that you fought Rachel on? I mean, you've been super honest, and I love talking to you. And, you know, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, you know, I want to have Rishi's babies. So, you know, at that level, if you can say that, you can be very frank and honest with me and tell me, have you fought your executive housekeeper on decisions, and how hard did she have to work to get the budget out of you?
She didn't have to work very hard at all. We bought some of those fogging machines, you know, those ones that shoot around and makes you look like Ghostbusters.
Absolutely. I know all about them.
We did fight a little bit because Rachel told me that she needed extra time to clean the bedrooms. My immediate response was, "What, are you trying to tell me the bedrooms weren't clean in the first place? What's going on here? Come on, let's be having you." No, of course, joking apart, of course there was extra cleaning. It was very difficult for the housekeepers when we first came back, and they had to wear all that PPE and everything else, and it was really unpleasant in the summer because they were literally cleaning in those apron things and the visors and the gloves and everything else. And there was a sense of nervousness as well from our housekeeping team, because nobody really knew then how infectious COVID was from surfaces. And interestingly, now I've just read some research that says it probably isn't very infectious from surfaces at all. You still need for it to be clean, but the real transmission is airborne.
And particles, absolutely.
Particles. So if you air the room, if the room is aired, then actually it's pretty safe. But there was a lot of nervousness from the housekeeping staff. You know, it really did feel like that everybody was going into battle on the front line. Really, it was.
They were exposed the most, in essence. When you think about the where the particles stay and lay, it would be in the rooms, especially if you had guests that were COVID positive. Early on, when you reopened in July, 4th of July last year, did you leave the room? What was your occupancy throughout the summer? And did you leave the rooms fallow? Did you, you know, have to
all of that
have to work really hard?
Absolutely, all of that leaving the rooms fallow nonsense. Everyone was going on about that. They were all saying, "Oh, I'm going to leave the room for 48 hours." Funnily enough, when the phone was ringing off the hook, the bank manager and the owner were screaming for cash. Oddly enough, all of that went out the window, and we were virtually 100% full for July, August, September, and October. We were packed. I mean, we probably operated about 92 or 93% for those 4 months. We were absolutely rammed.
I remember a discussion that we had when we were designing the toolkit for UKHA and the discussion whether it should be fallow, whether it shouldn't be. And, you know, you had some that could afford that and it was fine, but you had some that were opening. I remember Southwest Property, luxury family hotels that, you know, their head housekeeper had to come up with a way to make it work because they were 100% occupancy and you weren't far off. So it must have been really challenging.
Right, it was.
What are the learning points? You're opening now. You're opening. Well, actually, are you open? Where do you stand at the moment?
Yes, we're fortunate that we've got 23 bedrooms with outside access, with keys to terrace doors. And if you read the regulations closely enough, that actually the regulations state that domestic overnight accommodation is allowed as long as it's with a member of your household. And it's allowed in self-contained accommodation that does not share a lift, stairwell, corridor, or kitchen or bathroom. And of course, by providing outside access, that's exactly what we're able to do. So I checked with UK Hospitality. They said, yes, that's absolutely fine. We marketed it. We're absolutely full. We've sold, so all those 23 bedrooms, we're full for virtually through to the 17th of May.
Yeah.
So virtually 100% for the rooms we have available. And within 5 hours, yes, my friends, within 5 hours of opening, I have the EHO on the telephone. A member of the public had rung up to dob us in it, to say, you shouldn't be allowed. So I have this massive row with this bloody EHO. And I said, look, you should. She goes, oh no, they're sharing the kitchen. I said, no, we provide room service. We got tables set up. No. Oh, the food's coming from the same place, isn't it? I said, listen, you stupid woman. We've just done 100 on our terrace today, and all that food came from the same place. No. Oh, well, I have to refer you to my legal department. Anyway, the legal beagles eventually had to agree with me, and so we were allowed to stay open. But doesn't that just amaze you, the petty small-mindedness? I followed the regulations, I checked it, and she still tried to close us down. So we've got 23 rooms open, which is a really good soft opening. When we opened the hotel in June, I wish I'd had a soft opening. I said to all my operating managers, right, let's have a soft opening. Everyone, no, we'll be okay. We'll just do a bit of training. Came back, tears, chaos, carnage. It was just a mess. So I'm really pleased that we've got this just to get used to working again. It's what it's all about. Actually, you've got to clean a bedroom in 45 minutes.
Yeah,
that's it. Yes, you've got to serve. We've on the terrace on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we've done over 200 covers. And that's busy. You
said you've got to come back to work, and you've got to work, and I mean, your people, have they been on furlough all along? Have you done the rotas and they've come back on and off? What happened there?
I wish I'd done in that first one. I wish I'd done a rota of them coming back to do something. They came back with absolute jelly brains. They didn't want to work. They'd much rather, oh, do I have to come in? I'd much rather sit at home and stay on furlough. Yes, you do. Actually, yes, you have to come to work. Oh, well, you could put me on furlough and I could earn 80%. No, come to work. So I wish I'd put a process in, because then, of course, you had jealousy between the people who were working and the people who weren't. So the people who were working were going, oh my God, I've just been sweating myself stupid for the last 3 months, while that person's been posting pictures on Facebook of them going for lovely walks and regrouting their bathroom at home and doing their garden. Not that I was bitter at all about having to work.
No, you don't sound bitter at all.
No, I'm not bitter. No, not at all. But I wish I had actually done a rota for them. And that's what we've done this time. We've had people in cleaning. We've done loads of refurbishment. I mean, we've refurbished the Clock Tower restaurant. We've refurbished all 300 bedrooms. We're now doing both sets of ladies' loos. We've done the Clock Tower gents loo. I mean, we've done so much, and we've been able to keep them ticking over. So that's good.
It sounds like you've really taken this as an opportunity to sort of almost partially close and refurbish, which, if you have that in the plans, 3 to 5 year plans, you might be ahead of the game in the long run, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity to make a load of noise and a load of mess in an area that really would have been quite challenging to do if we were operating. And it means that poor old Rachel doesn't have to continually clean up after builders. you know, she can actually, we can still do it, and then she just needs to clean once rather than clean 5 times a day after messy builders. And as you say, we're ahead of the game.
That's really good. That's really good. So you're sort of, you've got your soft opening, you're opening, you've lost only 7 members of your staff. In theory, you don't need to be doing any recruitment in theory. But what I'm hearing from the industry is everyone wants to recruit, or they're preparing to recruit in June, July, especially if they're looking for in a staycation market area. So Southwest, Northeast Coast, Northwest Coast, you know, anywhere where there's any nice greenery, apart from London, Manchester, and the bigger cities, is preparing for a boom over the summer. Are you recruiting? Where are you going to find people from? And well, I'm going to say the B word. Are you afraid of the B word?
That's a very good question indeed, Joe. I think the pandemic actually muddied the waters for Brexit. We all forgot about how Brexit was going to impact us. And what happened was, before Brexit, we had 30% Brit, 70% European. We've now got, sorry, 60-40. We've now got 70% Brit, 30% European.
Wow.
And what happened was a lot of our European staff went home for the pandemic and never came back.
Yeah.
So I have, certainly in our housekeeping team, we've got an awful lot more English people now than we ever used to have. Now, whether they've come from other hotels or other industries, we've got an awful lot more English people. But what it has meant is that we've had to increase our wages. So our minimum pay now is £9.35 an hour. And obviously, national minimum wage has just gone up. So I'm probably going to have to increase it to £9.50 or something like that fairly shortly. It might be.
And this increase is to attract people to work for you. Is that why you're making that?
Yeah, we compete with the NHS. God bless them. Harrogate Hospital by people who have been trained by Rachel. Absolutely packed full. So NHS, Harrogate Hospital, Harrogate Council, and sadly McDonald's and Asda. You can get £10 an hour for stacking shelves in Asda.
It's scary, isn't it? It's scary how many people we have lost to retail, we have lost to NHS, and I'm a bit worried that they're never coming back. You know, I'm a bit worried that we have lost the reputation because of the redundancies that came early on, and you know, that. What are your thoughts about that?
I probably think we have. I think what we need to do is we need to work at being more flexible. We need to increase flexibility for our staff. We need to forget about the whole thing of what it used to be. Got to come in at 8 and 4:30 if you're a housekeeper. For example, you know, there needs to be more flexibility. It might be a 4-hour shift here, a 4-hour shift there. Somebody might not be able to do 45 hours or whatever it is. We need to be flexible. We just need to try as hard as we possibly can to make it a good place to work.
And it's so true. I remember suggesting flexibility to one of the housekeeping heads that I was working with, that was overseeing a group of 7-8 hotels. And she said, what do you mean? You know, that rota would be too complicated. I'm not doing that. I was like, you're not going to have housekeepers in 2 years' time. You need to be thinking differently. And now is the time to be looking at, you know, not just flexible working, but also where do we find people from? You know, the returning, you know, working mums, the alternative sort of sources of recruitment from people who ex-offenders, you know, everywhere and anywhere to make sure that we are finding the right people that will be able to work in the industry.
Absolutely. You know, I voted to remain principally because both options were rubbish. One option was just slightly more rubbish than the other, but that's immaterial. I voted to remain but I think that we in the hospitality industry were actually slightly hypocritical. We had 15 years of really cheap, easy labour that we grew fat on. And I think if we're honest and we look ourselves in the mirror, we ought to say, actually, for us to go, oh, it's dreadful, blah, blah, blah. Actually, maybe we should have been paying a decent wage beforehand. Maybe we should have been looking after people beforehand rather than just abusing a pool of cheap labour, which I think we probably did, if we're brutally frank.
Brutally honest.
I'm going to mark this on my calendar that someone has said it in these words, because I've been nattering about it in a slightly more politically correct manner that doesn't get me out of the boardroom for the last 10 years. That with progression, development has to come the valuing of the work, and motivational theories in housekeeping, in any of the hospitality, it's not Maslow, it's that equity theory that we need to focus on, that you're paid for what you believe that you're worth and what the going rate should be comparing to other areas. And people have always done that in the wrong, in a different manner.
I agree. You would expect me to say this as a general manager. However, it's not, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And if I'm paying you £9.50 an hour, I expect all of the housekeeping team or the housekeeping management to start looking for efficiencies that do not increase the total wage bill, but actually drive efficiencies. Yeah. So what we really need now is actually to keep, because as we know, if we have a good housekeeper, he or she can clean 10 of our bedrooms in an 8-hour shift. We get a new person, that person can only clean 5 or 6 rooms in a shift. Every single time a member of the housekeeping team leave, that costs us 4 bedrooms cleaning in one shift. It's no longer acceptable for us just to say, oh, well, Timmy's dead, never mind, let's get another one. Actually, we just increased our cost by damn near 50%, yeah, because for whatever reason that person's left. It's criminal if we just let them walk out the door. Yeah. We have to know why they've left and then not make the same mistake again, because that has cost us in pounds, shillings and pence.
And it's not just the rooms. If I run training, I'm a management consultant, and my job is looking at training. The cost of actually hiring and training up a housekeeping assistant or a room attendant, as you call it, is between £1,700 and £2,300, depending on what level. This is for 4 and 5 star hotels. It's a little bit cheaper in 3-star hotels, but not by much. And that's just recruiting them and getting them to be functional to do your 5 rooms. That's not the conscious competence, and getting them to actually not be returned to the room by the supervisor every second room because they're forgetting things. So I think it's something to really think about how to avoid and how to maximize. Now I'm going to get into nitty-gritty detail about the actual housekeepers and your belief about pandemic bringing housekeepers to the front of the house almost, and to the front of the forefront of everyone's minds. How important was Rachel to you, your executive housekeeper? How important were head housekeepers for other GMs that you know? And what can we do to keep that emphasis on the importance of housekeeping? Because it has been a poor relation to your F&B managers, to your front of house managers, to your revenue managers. I'm yet to find a head housekeeper, executive housekeeper that has neatly and nicely progressed into GM roles, and they manage your biggest department. So my question to you is, I suppose, how important was your housekeeper? How important do you see housekeepers in the future, and how do we get into GM roles if we want to?
You're probably talking to the wrong bloke, because okay. I have always championed how important housekeeping is. housekeeping is, and I always have a go at all of the flash Harrys out front. Housekeeping, like me, housekeeping is it's like you flick the light switch and you expect the light to come on. You expect the room to be clean, or you expect the loo not to smell, or whatever it is. The only time the housekeeper ever gets called is when the room does smell or the room isn't clean. So I've always championed the importance, vital importance, of housekeeping, kitchen porters, maintenance, greenkeepers, you know, all of those people who just provide the product for flash Harrys like me to wander around and say, oh, doesn't this room look nice? Shut up. But the real important thing for housekeeping, that's put them more into the front, is that guest perception that they want to see people cleaning. Beforehand, actually, guests didn't want to think about anything as nasty as cleaning. Oh dear, oh dear. So, oh, look, there's a housekeeper there. Oh, really? Oh dear. There, now, our guests actually say, I didn't see anyone from housekeeping. So actually, we had people in the front hall, quite obviously dressed in housekeeping kit, cleaning visibly to make the guests feel secure. And that was a really, really important thing during the pandemic.
Do you
Really,
think that theatre of cleaning is making a difference to the confidence? And what do you think are the other things that people could be doing, or housekeepers could be doing, to bring back that public's confidence in the hotels? And not just housekeepers, hotels in general. But today I would like to share something with the attendees that can actually help them go back to their workplace and do it tomorrow. So what else could we do to restore the confidence?
We have this, and the guests absolutely love it, right? It's a temperature scanner thing, and it's not the one that you put your face to and point a gun to your head, you know, that one. It's one where you put your wrist against a temperature thing, and it comes up with your temperature. 36.2, you can pass, it says, like this. And we've had it in operation for, you know, since July. And I haven't yet had one guest or one member of staff who come in and say, because when you put a cup of coffee next to it, it flashes and says, go away, you know, your temperature's high. I'm not sure it actually works. I think it always has a random collection of numbers from 35.2 up to 36.5, and it just spews them out in a random fashion. But guests love it. It gives them that confidence immediately. Oh, look at this. It's fantastic, this place. So that's a really good thing. Visible cleaning, literally just dress somebody up. Make sure that they are in the front hall, squirting and spraying.
Yeah.
Guests love it. I get letters, all great, visible cleaning, you know. Well, it used to happen before, believe it or not, but never mind. So visible cleaning, everything needs to be visible. So all the visible squirty sanitizing things and all the rest of it. Signs about open windows and ventilation. You can do it. We've actually got it on our confirmation letters. Make sure that all of the public area corridors have open windows, and if necessary, put a sign on there saying this window is open to ensure air circulation. It's all about visibility of actions, I think.
That is really good, and again, that might make a difference to how people feel about staying in the hotel. Anything that you are doing to give your guests that sense of confidence before they even come? So this is obviously what's relevant when they're in the hotel with you. Is there anything prior to the arrival that you're doing to make them feel comfortable, or to make them feel to go and book?
Yeah, I mean, we've done all of the stuff, all of the COVID charter or whatever it's called online, and in when the people first came back, I think that was important. The guests we get now actually don't care. actually the guests we get now, they just want to have a good time. They just want to get bottles of Prosecco down them and have a good crack.
Yeah.
The people who are worried are actually staying at home.
Yeah.
My guests now, they just love it. They're having a good time.
They're ready to come out. Well, it looks like it because it looked like Soho was like buzzing over the weekend, and certainly down where I am, it's really busy. So that's really good news. In many ways, hopefully everyone's being safe. What's the most significant hurdle that you're going to have in your hotel in the next couple of months?
The volume of leisure guests. There's virtually no weddings. There's virtually no corporate. There's virtually no conferences. It's all individual wedding guests. And for those of you who manage mixed market hotels, I'd rather do a marquee function for 600 people than a restaurant for 100. Marquee people, bulk catering and bulk hospitality, they do what they're told. Individual hospitality, they all check out late, they all want to check in early. You know, from a housekeeping perspective, it's an absolute bloody nightmare because you can't get rid of them till 10:30, 11 o'clock, no matter how hard you try. Every other guest the next day turns up at 12 o'clock expecting to be able to get into the bedroom, and all of a sudden we've got 90 rooms to clean in an hour and a half. Yeah. I use the word "we" in the royal fashion, by the way. that'll be Rachel.
I was going to hold you to that and call Rachel and say, "Has he put the apron on?" But obviously, it's not going to happen. You've already.
All she needs to do is give me a shout. I'm very good at stripping beds.
You've heard it here first. So yeah. Rachel, for the next meeting during the summer, we would like to see a photo of Peter stripping beds, just to make sure that he stays true to his word. Peter, last question from me before we wrap this up, unless someone else of the attendees on this lovely call has any questions. But we've got some nice suggestions actually now that I've looked at it. Someone's saying shorter shifts would be great. But again, some people are saying that it's hard to do that because actually if you have a shorter shift, you're not making as much money, I suppose.
I disagree. That's where we need to think differently. If you had shorter shifts, if you got everybody in from, let's say, this over these next 3 months when I've just got all leisure guests, I know that I'm going to need loads of the housekeeping team from 11 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Yeah. If I paid them all £10.50 or £11 an hour, but for a 3 or 4 hour shift, I'd get more out of them because they'd be fresh. I could really push them for 4 hours. We get them to clean as many bedrooms as they would do in an 8-hour shift, say. They'd make the same money. Happy days.
That sounds really interesting as a concept, and I really like that suggestion. There's a lot of research that talks about either shortening the working week to coming from 5 to 4 days, or shortening the shifts to make people more efficient. There is even a call for a 6-hour working day for the office workers because they're more efficient in actually actively working. So that's a really good suggestion. The last question.
It would work with housekeeping because you can see how efficient everybody is because of how many rooms they clean. I would have a problem with doing it with office workers, for example, because you can't actually see how much graft they get through a day.
Yeah, that's actually a fair point. So it's maybe output based. Peter, last question for you from me, unless someone else pops in a question in the meantime. We have here amazing executive housekeepers that have worked all the way through the pandemic, really been the heroes of the hotels, kept everyone safe, kept everyone going, actually delivered on the budgets that have been really tight. Not every GM has been like you, and we all know that. So we think Rachel is incredibly lucky in many ways.
No, I'm incredibly lucky,
Oh, there
actually.
we go. There we go. That's really good.
Rachel was the first person I ever employed in this hotel 24 years ago. Still one of my best ever hires. So.
Oh, that's brilliant to hear. But what can Rachel and others like Rachel do to be more strategic and have the seat around the table when it comes to the senior management teams, the executive teams, and sort of almost the board level? And what can Rachel and others like Rachel, who are actually quite, I don't know, who want to achieve different things in life and get to the DGM positions, the GM positions, what could they do to move forward? Because it seems like, if we look at percentage-wise, there's not that many executive housekeepers that are actually being pushed forward for these positions. What could they do differently?
Interestingly, my son is working for Red Carnation, and his hotel, his general manager is an ex-housekeeper.
Oh, I know. He's at the
Edgerton House. Yes.
Edgerton House, yes. I worked really closely. I actually wanted to do a case study on them because she's the only head housekeeper, apart from the ex-Connaught housekeeper years ago, that I know that has been a GM.
So what do I think? I think, first of all, and it's not just housekeeping. Don't get me wrong. It's not just housekeeping. It's anybody who is it's any job that is so involved in their craft, if you like, that they can't move out of it. It's very similar for chefs, and it's very similar for restaurant managers, sommeliers, those sorts of roles. I think the first key thing is a change of mindset, and it's a change to a strategic mindset rather than a task-based mindset. It would be the first thing. It's almost taking a step back from, oh God, I've got to clean 90 rooms today, to actually, okay, I've got to service these rooms so we can make this much money. How am I going to do it while making more profit? And what can I do strategically that is going to improve the profitability of this department? And it's very, I get it. It's very, very, very difficult for craft-based roles like chef, like housekeeping, like greenkeeping or whatever, where the product is all. It's much easier for bullshit merchants like me, who did front of house, who just stand around talking to people all day long anyway. Actually, it's easier for me to be strategic than task-based, because I don't have to produce anything. I just have to wally around and talk to a lot of people. So that is the key: a change of mindset to strategic rather than task-based.
That is brilliant advice. That's absolutely brilliant advice. And when Rachel comes to you for things to get approved, for budget changes, for resources, or any one of your HODs, what is the advice that you will give to any of the head housekeepers? What are the 3 key things to have with you when you're asking for a change in a budget, a resource, or a decision from your GM? What do they need to come to you with?
Firstly, does it wash its own face? Is there an actual financial benefit to doing what we're going to do now? So if you want a new scrubber for the spa floor, right, either come to me and say, right, at the moment it's costing us, it takes 2 people 3 hours to clean the spa floor, so that's actually 6 hours. By buying this floor cleaner that's going to cost £4,000, actually it's only going to take 2 hours per night rather than 6 hours, so I'm saving 4 hours. Multiplied by 15 quid, that's 60 quid. You multiply that by 100 days, and actually you've made your money back. Oh, okay. Keys up. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So appeal to general managers' pockets, because ultimately That is the general manager's armor. The only reason general managers don't get sacked is if they make their owners money.
Yeah.
The only reason I haven't been sacked is because I've made him loads of money.
Yeah.
Beginning and end of story. That's how it works. That is a general manager's best armor. If you're making cash, they are less likely to get rid of you.
Yeah.
So appeal to his pocket or her pocket is the first thing. The second thing is clarity. Just make sure you've got all of the information there. Don't say it's a Tasky, I don't know, XF50. You know what one of them looks like, don't you, boss? I've got a bloody clue. Get me a printout, get me a picture. Here's a picture. This is what it does. This is how many square foot of floor it cleans. This is how many square feet of floor I want it to clean. This is how much money we're going to save. Thank you very much. So detail, make sure you've got the detail. So one, appeal to his pocket to make sure he keeps his job, or she, in my case, he keeps his job. 2, detail. And 3, don't dump it on, don't dump this problem on him or her. Own the problem yourself. The general manager's got enough to worry about with chefs being stroppy, or spa girls being difficult, or guests complaining, or EHO people threaten to close him down, or owners saying do this, that, and the other. They've got enough to worry about anyway. Own it yourself. Say, if I can do this, boss, I'll just crack on and do it. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Can I have the thumbs up? Yes. And the final thing is don't go to the general manager saying, I need more staff because we're really busy, without having explored every other avenue that you could have done to actually do the job by looking for efficiencies.
Yeah.
But all that GM will do is turn around to you and go, so how long does it take you to clean a bedroom? 45 minutes. Okay, fine. How can we reduce that to 40 minutes? Because if we multiply that 5 minutes by 90 bedrooms across a whole year, it adds up to however many staff it gets to. And if you have actually done your homework and said, okay, fine, I reckon if I got rid of the stupid glass table that your daft design committee has put in these bedrooms, attracts dust like nothing else, if I could get rid of that, actually I'd be taking 5 minutes off the bedroom, or whatever it is.
It works.
Yeah.
You know what? This has been the most useful advice that I have heard. And I'm not a housekeeper, but I train housekeepers. And I'm going to listen to this recording, put it down, and that's going to be my training session for hospitality managers, housekeeping specialism, because that's what we needed to hear. And that's what people need to understand, that housekeepers can do this. We just need to get a bit more strategic with how we approach the decision-making process, because they all know what they know, but the way they present it sometimes is not in the structure that the GMs expect or see easily. And it ends up being a battle rather than a collaborative approach to things.
The answer nowadays isn't just to throw more staff at it.
No.
That answer will never, ever be the answer ever again nowadays. Firstly, because the vast majority of British youth nowadays don't want to work as hard. Secondly, they cost more. And thirdly, we haven't got our inexhaustible supply of cheap, hard-working European labour. The answer isn't chuck more staff at it. The answer is get smarter.
Well, on that note, and before we get into ageism and talk about British youth that is not going to work hard, which they will if we train them right, Peter, you have really made our evening, and I've got some lovely comments in the chat that are saying that what an enjoyable speaker. We heard a lot of things. Because you shared so much with us, and I am going to overrun for the first time in almost a year. So thank you, Peter. You've ruined me now. what I would love to do is actually let you guys know and let you, Peter, know about an interesting product. So we're going to have half a presentation, from Liz actually telling us a little bit about microbalm and actually telling you about the link that I've posted here. So Liz, you've literally got a minute to tell us about microbalm. Can we get a little bit from you now?
Just hi everybody, just very quickly, I've had a lot of interest in the last few days. This has been on the television. It's a P&G professional product and it's absolutely brilliant because on surfaces you can contact for up to 24 hours and you don't have to keep re-cleaning them. So for spa areas where they've had to delay the treatments because they've been cleaning the treatment rooms, it's just fantastic. So if anybody wants any more info, just email me, ring me, whatever. But the most exciting thing I've got as well tonight is there's a link for Taylors of Harrogate tea and coffee samples. They'll be sent to you. And forgive me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I think you've got Taylor's tea and coffee in your rooms. Yeah,
I've
Rachel?
an intravenous drip, the tea.
Yeah, well, we just thought it'd be really nice for everybody that's on the Zoom call tonight to have a little taste of Yorkshire, and
that's lovely.
Taylors of Harrogate are very helpful. So yeah, so your samples are your Taylor's tea and coffee, and if anybody wants any samples, trial products, P&G professional, again, get in touch. Okay, so those are your samples.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Everybody.
And I have a little note from Paul Fisher, who couldn't join us today, but he has actually put me in charge of explaining this. Hospitality Action and Mark Lewis, who we had on, I believe, London meetup, is actually having an amazing initiative called To Hell and Back. Umbrella Training is actually sponsoring this as well as participating as a team, so I'm very excited. And Paul would like to invite you all to join the UKHA team. So we already know that Lorraine has committed 100 miles herself. She doesn't know this yet, so Paul asked me to let her know via this medium. So if you would like to be part of UKHA team for To Hell and Back, which is a charitable walk where different teams will be walking a virtual route around either England or Scotland or the whole of Britain or whatever you decide to do, Paul has committed you already to 1,000, I think he said 1,000 miles, which is quite interesting because as Umbrella Training, we're only doing 600, so good luck to you guys. But if you would like to be part of it, please email at info@ and let us know, and we will make you, well, we will sign you up to the team. So this is a really good cause. It's June time, I can't remember exact dates, but it's going to be absolutely amazing. To Hell and Back with Hospitality Action. And we know that we have an absolutely amazing Zoom meeting booked on Tuesday, the 11th of May from 6 p.m. with AICR UK. So that's the Association of Front Office Management. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. I know that we're preparing quite a lineup for you. So you've got a couple of really nice events to look forward to, some samples to try. You've had Peter. I think this was a really good evening. Carrie, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's been amazing. It's been fabulous to see new faces, old faces, and getting the positivity. And I'd like to thank Peter for taking time out of his busy schedule, for being so open and honest about the past year. And I think I agree totally with his sentiments. We should work smart, not hard. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the evening and had a fantastic time. And I'm so looking forward to the world opening up and doing our physical meetings again. They may be a bit different with some guidelines, but we'll blend it with the Zoom in as well. So it's just fabulous to have seen you all.
No worries. And I'm really sorry, we were going to do a poll, but for some reason the poll option has completely decided to stop working on me. So what we can do for the next session is I'll make sure they incorporate that, and apologies for that. But, you know, feel free to not you know, or raise your hand. Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this in a gallery view, and if you can switch on your cameras, that'd be amazing. And if you're up for seeing us live at past 21st of June, put your hands up, thumbs up, hands up. That's it. Perfect. And we can do a screenshot of that, and then that'll do. There we go. So we're really looking forward to seeing you on the 11th with this amazing lineup that we have planned. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Peter, you've been absolutely amazing. I've been spoiled as a host as a, you know, just well, Carrie's the host, as a talking person, as an interviewer, to have you here. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next time. See you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.